on how to navigate a path forward during the pandemic. I'm excited to be joined by our own career-centered coaches, as well as 2 alums who will share some insights of essentially having been there and done that, and how they navigated the job market during the last recession. So we hope that this will be an informative evening. We have an hour planned, and the idea will be that the first hour we will share some of our tips and tricks and stories with you. And then we've set aside the second half hour for you to hear from you and to hear some questions that you might have for our panelists. So as you're thinking and listening to us talk about our different stories and experiences, start collecting questions in your mind. And at the halfway mark, we'll open it up and you can chat at Conor, who I should say, I'm one half of the Alumni Relations office. The other half is Conor, and he'll introduce himself in a moment. But the 2 of us are kind of tag teaming this and hosting the event this evening. And so he will be the moderator for our chat room. And so you can, once we open it up for questions, you can chat at him, and he will pass those questions on to the panelists. And we also have a timekeeper because we want to be respectful of everyone's time and keep on track. And so Lisa on our panel will be, has offered to be our timekeeper for us. So she may jump in and keep us going and on track because this should be an exciting conversation and really in depth. And we just want to make sure that we get to everyone's questions and on time. We are recording this webinar and it will be available on our YouTube channel, the Westminster YouTube channel. This is our 3rd virtual event that we are have hosted from the alumni office. We started them in April. This is our first time using the webinar feature, so please bear with us if there are any hiccups along the way. So let me make sure I got all that out of the way. You know, it's kind of funny that we're doing this webinar this evening because I am new to Westminster. I actually did my own career pivot and having worked in law enforcement and nonprofit work and been a lobbyist and all of those things, but never in higher ed. So it can be done if you're thinking about a career pivot even later in your career. So what we'd like to do is to get to know who's in the room, the Zoom room, so to speak. And so I would like to ask you all to participate in a poll. So we're gonna do a quick poll and see who we've got here with us this evening. Here we go. So let us know what statement best describes you. Where are you coming from? I don't see anyone taking the poll. If you can't see the poll or are unable to participate, would you chat at us, please?
Looks like we have gotten everyone.
Oh, okay. So you can see the results, but I can't. So Conor, tell us who's here.
So I can share the results with everyone right now. So this is what it looks like.
Ah, all right. So it looks like we've got some folks who are in the other category. So Conor, if you could look at your chat and tell me who those people might be, but it looks like we have a lot of alums who are considering a career pivot. So that's exciting. And a few that are in the workforce, having been laid off and furloughed. What does the other category look like, Conor?
So the other category, it looks like we have one person who's currently a student in the PMBA program. That's the only person who's messaged me to say what their other was. So if you did say other, maybe just send a quick chat so we kind of know who is doing what in that category.
It's really nice to know who all's joined us this evening so we can tailor our comments to the audience. So I really appreciate your sharing and giving us a little bit more information about you. And with that, I am going to turn it over to the panelists. Like I said, we have our Career Center coaches here and 2 alumni, and I will pass it to them to introduce themselves. Kimberly, if you would start with introductions, that'd be awesome.
It would be my pleasure. I'm Kimberly Tosti. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I graduated in 2011 with a BS in psychology and a minor in music. And I am currently a senior business partner at FranklinCovey Company, here in the Valley.
Awesome. Brandon Hines here. I graduated 2009, Bachelor of Science Flight Operations, and 2012 with my MBA. I'm currently a product manager in the software world at CHC Healthcare.
I am Lisa Heiskell, and I am a career coach at the Westminster Career Center.
Hi, Christopher Osana, and I work with Lisa Heiskell. I'm also a career coach, and I just mentioned the 2 other members of our Career Center team that you can't see at the moment, but who are here with us in spirit and Zoom. First of all, our Career Center Director, Trisha Jensen, and she also, in addition to being our director, acts in a coaching capacity as well. And then we also have Ali Shorkey, who is heading up all of our student employment for opportunities that are based on campus.
All right. And I'm Conor Bentley. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Relations and also a proud Westminster alum, and graduated with my M.Ed from Westminster in 2008.
Great. Well, again, I think this is going to be a fun night of learning, and so let's get it going, shall we? So we have another poll. We're going to test out polling once again, and tell us about what's top of mind for you tonight. So again, so we can tailor some of our comments to make it a valuable hour for you. And Conor, let us know how it's looking.
Yeah, people are responding, so
Nice.
we're getting there. Okay. All right. Oh, almost everybody's in. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and share those results now. Let's see.
All right. It looks overwhelming that folks are interested in how to navigate a challenging job market, and it certainly is one of that, but hopefully we'll be able to give you some tips and tricks on how to shine in the job market.
And it looks like we have one searching for a job in another state, so maybe
Okay.
Great.
if we have some thoughts on that. So,
Nice.
all right.
Nice.
So I'm going to go ahead and if we want to see any of the poll results at any time, we can recall them at any time. So if anybody wants to see those, we can pull them back up.
Nice. Well, so I think what we'll do is we'll start with having our 2 alums talk a little bit about their experience when they entered the job market in a challenging job market. And I think I'll turn it to Kimberly first. So Kimberly, tell us about what your experience was like and when you graduated in 08, 09, did you say?
2011. I was supposed to graduate in 2010 and was one of those fun super seniors.
Nice.
Took an extra year. Wonderful. Well, so when I graduated, I had every intent on becoming either a social worker or going back to school, getting my PsyD, and moving forward in either the academic, research, or counseling world. Basically, a traditional, what you would call a traditional psychology track. And when I graduated, similar to in 2008, in 2011, we saw another dip just after my graduation date. In August, we saw another dip in the market. Unemployment was at 9.1%, I think, somewhere around there. And we were still really digging ourselves out from 2008. It wasn't an ideal market, and it wasn't a great place to find a role, especially when you have 6 months to find something to do in order to pay off your student loans, for that first payment. So for me, my job, my career pathway kind of took a different turn than I would have ever thought. And it started by a family friend who was also a mentor had approached me and asked me if I would be interested in an internship with his company, with FranklinCovey, in the marketing department. Now, to give you some context, I had started as a marketing major and changed my major because I hated marketing so much. But he was the chief marketing officer, and so you don't say no when somebody says that, especially when they're willing to pay you and you don't have a job and you have to, pay the student loans off. So I took the job, assuming that that was going to be something that would hold me over until I could find something else that was more in alignment with what my vision of my future would be like. But interestingly, through his mentorship and through my experience as an intern there, I found a completely different pathway that has now served me for the last 10 years of my career, has brought me immense pride. I use my psychology degree every day, and it's not an area that I would ever have thought of going. I'm not a social worker. I'm not in marketing as much anymore. But the company that I work for does leadership development. And it's an area that I had never heard of before. When I was in college, I didn't know that it was a thing. I didn't know it was an area that you could go into as someone who was focused on the social behavioral sciences. And because I was willing to kind of pivot initially and then take some mighty risks, I've now risen up in the company and have found a place where I'm able to, support my family. I have a young son and a husband that I support now, and I'm very happy in my job. But initially, I think in the context of what everyone's been saying on the panel here, it wasn't all guns and roses at the beginning, right? It was very scary. It was terrifying to be like, okay, I need to find something to do. I have this passion. I spent all this money on this degree. How am I going to utilize my degree? And initially, I felt like I had to do that within the context of what my box vision was for myself. So as we're having questions, if you have questions about, how to pivot and how to be flexible with your career, I'd be happy to answer those questions as we enter into the Q&A a little bit later. But there's a little bit of background on me and where I have gone.
Nice, thank you. So next, I'd invite Brandon to tell us a little bit about his experience as he entered the job market.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me tonight. And I think we're all dealing with this where animals seem to be coming by at the most opportune moments. So you might hear a cat kind of meowing, but more like a groan in the background. So we'll see if she makes an appearance. But again, Brandon Hines, I've got a couple degrees from Westminster, did my undergrad as well as my MBA. And I think overall, I had always kind of a pattern going on with kind of each transition of school to career. And it's always been around really like a 3 to 4 year plan. Going to Westminster, started in 2005, and my goal was, go fly planes. Eventually become a flight instructor, get a job with the airlines. It's all going to be hunky-dory. Just knock it out. Also, though, while you're at Westminster, have fun, enjoy it. Participate in clubs, organizations, student body, get involved with the Senate. Do a lot of different things, because that's what Westminster allows you to be exposed to is those other opportunities. Kimberly and I actually, we met through choir, through the chamber singers group, and got to go on some great trips with that crew. But then senior year came, 2008, 2009. Kimberly already kind of mentioned that a little bit. Things are not looking really good in the market. Airlines are not hiring. There's essentially like a log jam of pilots trying to get onto the airlines. It's always this flow of pilots trying to get on, and the airline said no. So then all these pilots are stuck getting hours as flight instructors. So they're taking up all the flight instructing jobs as it is. And they're just going to be kind of waiting to get on. Meanwhile, they're also changing restrictions as far as how many hours are needed to get onto the airlines. And so seeing the writing on the wall there, I saw a 2 to 3 year, extension before I could even get over to the airlines because of all of a sudden this sudden change. So halfway through the senior year, noticing that, I decided to start thinking about other opportunities. And in my case, I was fortunate enough to land over into the admissions side of the world at Westminster as a student worker, and eventually get hired on when I had graduated from my bachelor's degree as a recruiter. So I worked in the admissions office, and my whole goal there was my next 3 to 4 year plan was, all right, I've got a job. Let's go get an MBA. Let's go open up even more doors with that extra qualification. And so pursued that, completed the MBA program in 2012. While I was involved with Westminster, I also got involved with the Young Alumni Committee, which I believe now is the Committee of Recent Grads, if I'm correct. I think that the name of YAC didn't seem to stick around too long. So yeah, the CRG is alive and well. And if you are not familiar with that, please check that out after on kind of the website. Maybe Conor will have some more information around how you can get involved, because ultimately that involvement with Young Alumni and the Westminster Network brought me to my next shift. So 3 years after I had graduated in 2009, through the Westminster Network, a friend of mine he actually did flight ops undergrad and his MBA. He was working over at Workday. He was doing software sales at Workday, and this was 2013. Still a pretty small-ish company. Now I think there's about 1,700 employees. Now probably around 12,000 employees. And I saw an opportunity. Fast-growing company, listed as one of the best places to work, really good culture, values, use that Westminster Network, got onto Workday. And the whole goal there was one, do a good job, but also I didn't want to do sales anymore. I did undergraduate recruitment for years at Westminster of undergrad. I did the MBA. I'm selling software now. I don't want to be in sales. So I was just upfront with my manager. And I just said, hey, I don't want to do this. I will keep doing this job because I want this paycheck, right? I want these commissions, but I don't want to do this. And so I started exploring some different areas. And because of that outreach with the manager around, hey, I'm interested in a bunch of different things. It turns out that Workday decided that, they've been building HR, finance, payroll software. They wanted to build a higher education student system. Well, I have 4 years of higher education recruitment, admissions experience. Great, good fit. So they actually found me within Workday because I was open with my manager about not having sales be my path, but a different path. And so what that did is I was there for a couple of years at Workday in Salt Lake, and that led me on to my next 4-year path and plan. And that was moving to California, moving to the San Francisco area, and where I started as a product manager. So I went from sales, now I'm in technology, I'm working with development teams, moved out there. And again, the whole goal was, here I am, large growing, brand new software product that we're developing, get as much experience as I can, but I really don't want to buy a house that's at minimum $1 million. I just did not want that. I had an 80-minute commute each way to and from work on the train. And you add that up, it's actually 1 month of your life, a year, just commuting. And then of course you're sleeping and you're working and doing other things. So really, it only left me about 2 months left of my really a year to spend time with my family, with my wife, and at the time, a young son. And so I looked at that and said, all right, great, been here. That's my 3 to 4 year plan in the Bay Area. I've got my experience. Now what? Oh, let's get back to Salt Lake. Let's go back to Salt Lake. Let's raise our family. My wife was pregnant with our second kid at the time. Again, I leveraged the Westminster network and looked around and looked at best places to work. CHG Healthcare always really falls on the list for best places to work really across the nation. But also in Utah, Scott Beck, he's our CEO, great guy. He did his MBA at Westminster. Don't worry, that wasn't my in. It wasn't like a buddy with Scott. Him and I have had some conversations since joining, of course. But another guy, Jeff, who I did my undergrad with and actually ended up working in admissions. He's working there, and his wife works there. And there's a number of Westminster connections over at CHG. And so saw that opportunity. And I know there was an item here of kind of, looking at jobs out of state. I don't know if you're specifically looking to go to a specific state. I know that there's always a little bit of a balance of, you want to let them know that you want to move to that state, but not that once you move, you're going to look for a better opportunity. And so there's definitely a balance there. And so trying to be as focused and knowledgeable about the company and what they're doing and what their purpose is, and try to deflect away from why you're trying to move to that state, I think can really help during those conversations. So, and again, right now, I've been now at CHG for a little over a year in a product role. We continue to expand our company and expand our product roles and continue to grow. And that kind of next 3 to 4 year plan is to basically just do a really good job, right? Do a really good job, move up within the ranks right now, raise my family, and just try to have as much fun as possible. So
Nice. Well, thank you. You make it sound so exciting, moving around. So before we open it up for you all to ask questions, we wanted to give our career coaches some time to tell you a little bit about the Career Center and some of the resources that they can offer you. So Lisa, take it away.
Absolutely. So we have a really important event coming up across the state of Utah on Tuesday from 9 to 2, and we'll send some follow-up material on this, but we have 80 plus employers who are there to see most of the state's colleges and universities, alumni and recent grads, and it is a virtual career fair. So we'll send you some tips on how to successfully approach employers at a virtual career fair. But you join the general fair virtually, and then you can join which employers you would like to speak with. And we have many industries represented, many types of roles. We have financial industry, we've got technology, HR, nonprofits, and there are organizations who are hiring for inside and outside of Utah if you're looking to do that. So that's all for now. I'm sure we can discuss it more later. Christopher?
Thanks, Lisa. So a little bit about us and how we can work. Oh, did everybody just hear that? There was a little voice that said, it's 6 o'clock. Okay.
You're welcome.
Lisa, as it turns out, we didn't need you. We have an automated timekeeper. But anyway, so the Career Center, a couple things I just wanted to share about us. First, our team is relatively new to Westminster. We're not new to career services. We're not new to the coaching capacity that we work in. But I point that out because all of us recently, though not in the current climate, navigated career pivots, navigated relocations to different states, et cetera, et cetera. So we would just want to put that out there that we're a little bit closer in time to our job search as well, and can certainly empathize and support you from that angle. You may not know, if you're an alumni, that you have access to us for free forever. So this is a really unique thing about the Westminster Career Center services. Most larger colleges do have career services for alum, but typically you need to pay. Often it's maybe a 1 or 2 type of visit, and we are here and available for you now more than ever. So as Lisa mentioned, you'll be receiving either tomorrow or Friday a PDF packet of resources. It will include information on the job fair, information on all the things we can help you with, how to access us, how to book online appointments. Of course, now that we're all off campus, all of our services are virtual, but we can still be available to you phone, email, or via video chat. And you can imagine the things that we help you with. Many of them you have questions about tonight, but I'll just give you our greatest hits list, and then we'll sort of move on. But anything related to your job search strategy, anything related to your personal branding, collateral, LinkedIn, resume, cover letter, online presence management. We can help you with mock interviewing. We can help you with strengths assessment when you get to the point where you are closing in on your next offer, and you will, and we'll be really excited for you when that happens. We can help you navigate salary conversations. So essentially, wherever you are in your job search that you need help, we'd love to help you. Everyone tends to get stuck somewhere in the process, and we'd be happy to help you troubleshoot. In the hours that we're not available to you, we also have a pretty robust supply of resources online through our platform, which is called Handshake. If you're a current student or a recent student, you might be familiar with it. If you're an alum, you also have access to that, and we will send over the information on how you can get in there. Handshake will allow you to schedule appointments with us, look for jobs, search events, and down the list. And then just a couple of things, last things, and then we will get out of this. I really encourage any of you who are on LinkedIn to join our Westminster Network group that's on LinkedIn. We'll send you the information in the PDF on how to get there and how to do that. There's a phenomenal support team available to you on LinkedIn right now, nationally and globally, in the form of recruiters, career experts, online coaches, who are all rushing in to help with the best of what they have to offer right now for free, whether it's advice, whether it's resources. So in addition to having us, there's quite an extensive community, probably for any industry you would want to pursue. There is a coach or a recruiter out there on LinkedIn right now providing support and advice on how to make your next move. So just making a little plug for LinkedIn. And then we have a couple of new resources we're launching as well. I'll just name them now. Keep your eyes out, and we'll be sending you more information. One is called Career Shift. We're excited to announce that we have reserved free accounts for all of you. And Career Shift, in short, will be a phenomenal project management tool for your job search that will save you a ton of time. It's much more than that, but that's the teaser. And then the other platform we're making available this summer, coming soon, is called Standout. And it's a virtual mock interview platform. Now, ironically, Tricia Jensen, our director, started a conversation to secure Standout for us before the pandemic hit. And now here we all are in the, here we all are. So the timing could not be better. And it's a great tool that will provide you awesome feedback and resources in terms of really nailing what we all have to become really good at now, which is exactly what we're doing today. So a little bit on the Career Center. Heather, back to you.
All right, so this is the point where we're asking for you all to join us in the conversation. If you would, so if you have questions lined up, if you would chat them at the host. I just was tinkering with my chat feature and I couldn't see that you can direct a chat to the host, but rather the panelists. So if you want to choose that option, and what's on your mind? What kind of questions can we answer for you? And then I'm going to pass it to Conor, who's going to moderate this portion of the webinar.
Thank you. Yeah, so yeah, just fire any questions that you have. They could be, real basic or, but we do have a comment, and it's from Gail in the aviation program, and she just was recognizing that, there is a lot of upheaval currently. She's sort of listening to Brandon talk and talking about some of the upheaval that's going on in the aviation industry. But, that I think is something in a lot of industries, right? A lot of industries are facing this. But actually we do have a question now, and I think maybe we can just kind of go around and everybody can kind of take a crack at this, because it's I think it's a really good question, and I think a lot of people are going to feel this, and I've definitely felt it too. It's how to get a job outside your major. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that. Christopher, go ahead.
I'll take a stab, and I'm sure everybody will have great things to add. But
with no official experience, she added that.
I assumed, and it ties in with the pivot, which I understand from the survey. Several people had that top of mind as well. So every case is going to be unique, and I just make a plug, first of all, that for a longer conversation on how to strategize towards a move outside your major or outside your career, again, great opportunity to sign up for an appointment with one of our coaches, Lisa, Tricia, or myself. But just broadly speaking, and keeping it short, if I'm here and I want to get there, I need to go find out who is there and how they got there. So the good news is there are currently 20,000 Westminster College alum on LinkedIn. I would venture to guess that at least 5, which is probably all you'd need to talk to, ended up working outside their major without any experience. Oh, okay, raise your hand. Okay, there you go. So, and by the way, that is my career path as well. I totally unrelated undergrad degree. So, but I think in general, if you want to pivot or if you want to make a change, find out who is there and how they got there. Find out who already did what you've done. It's not because you'll follow their exact same path, but they will have learned so much that they'll be excited to share with you. And asking someone for their perspective and insight on how they achieved something, accomplished something, became successful, people love to share those stories with you. It's very motivating for them. So I would tap into that. That's just one tip. There's many more. And can I hand it to you, Lisa?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
There is so much more, and we love to have customized conversations in a formal coaching session. LinkedIn keeps coming up. I certainly hope everybody's on LinkedIn and reads it frequently. It's not just building your profile and then kicking back. Follow companies in an industry that you want to be a part of. And as Christopher mentioned, you've got to talk to people. That's how you build your network in a new industry. It's part of the career pivot process. You've got to start building that network in a new industry. And you will find out so much information that you really had no idea about. And you've started to build some advocates for yourself. So follow companies, read what they're posting, get really familiar with it so that when you're in that interview, or even back up 2 steps, writing your cover letter and customizing your resume, you know those key things that are really critical to that industry or role. And you'll distinguish yourself from others really well that way.
Can I make a comment there as well?
Yeah.
So don't assume that you don't have the experience just because you don't have in your mind what they're looking for, right? So when we look at a job, when we're looking outside of our major, we tend to kind of put ourselves in boxes. We tend to think that I identify as my major and therefore I don't have any of the skills that are necessary for this other pathway. And that's generally speaking not the case. That, really, it's been mentioned a couple of times before that you need to talk to somebody, and that's so true. You need to talk to somebody to figure out what are the skills that are needed to get in? Maybe, you know, if you wanted to pivot to become leadership in an organization, there's going to be steps to get there, right? You have to go in at a lower level potentially, but finding out what kinds of skills that an organization is looking for, what kind of person they're looking for. A lot of organizations now are really focused on finding people that fit their culture more than that fit their skill set. So they want to find people who are like them, people who think like them, people who have similar backgrounds. And so it's more helpful to figure out who these companies are from a cultural standpoint, what skills they're looking for on a more base level, and then seeing how you fit into that, right? So then you're not saying, well, like for me, for example, I can do research and I can help people with their problems because I'm in psychology. But when I pivoted to marketing, I also had this creative component. I was able to analyze data because I was focused on research. And that's really, really valuable from a marketing standpoint, because you need to know where the market's at in order to, you know, develop marketing campaigns. So finding areas where there's crossover in what you're currently doing versus what you're looking to do. I'm sure you'll be surprised with how many areas that you actually do have experience, even if it's not, you know, underneath that umbrella of what you're looking to do.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, being creative about your skills, because I know from my personal experience, like I was able to, you know, make my like waiting table, like my experience waiting tables into, you know, kind of like I know how to prioritize on the fly, because that's what you're doing when you're waiting tables. Like I was able to kind of think creatively about that and position that experience into something else that was completely different than waiting tables, right? So being very creative about how you think about your skill set. We have another question. This one's more specifically to Brandon, but advice for getting into, you know, product management, and also the possibility if maybe this is a little too specific. Elaine wonders if maybe you'd be interested in talking offline about it, and maybe just give like a quick overview of that, Brandon.
Yeah, no, Elaine, we could totally touch base. Hit me up on LinkedIn, and we can have a connection. I mean, I think, you know, if my career path is any example, right? Like I got to Workday because of my Westminster network. I got to CHG because of my Westminster network. Like, let's lean on each other as much as we can. That's what we're here for. So we can totally do that. You know, I think, you know, as far as product management goes, I think, you know, kind of understanding, it sounds like if you've done some research around, you know, what the role entails of working with clients and customers and development. You know, I kind of go off of 3 essentially guiding principles for product management in my career. And that's empathy, being able to be empathetic and understanding of what that client, that customer is going through, to truly understand what the problem is. Being able to then take that and drive that into a vision. And that's exploring other products. You know, there's a lot of products out there in the world, whether it's physical products or digital products that we can take examples from and turn them into our own. It doesn't have to be a brand new original idea even, but taking that and finding your own vision for what problem that can solve, and then being able to socialize that, being able to create a platform, create a way to voice that out to your stakeholders, whether that be within the business of why you're going to provide value, or why you're selling that to a development team of here's what we're creating, and let's go create this because it's going to help make our company $20 million, right? Like that gets a dev team jazzed up, right? They're like, versus here's the stories, go work on them. So, you know, empathy, vision, and then being able to socialize that out.
Great. Okay. So, and I would say to everybody out there, I mean, we're all on LinkedIn. You can connect with all of us, connect with the Westminster Network, that group, but also just connect with us personally too. I think that's a great way to do it. This one we kind of touched on a little bit, but we do have an alum who's out of town, obviously can't necessarily come in physically, less of a problem these days. but just tools available to alumni that are out of state. Again, I think we've seen how programming from the alumni office and from the Career Center and the tools that we have are now better suited for more distance type things. But maybe just quickly speak to that. I know in Alumni Relations, we've done a lot more virtual events and plan to do more in the future. So that's something that, just from our end, that's what we plan to do. But I'll let Christopher or Lisa kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I would just say we're really, I saw that question. I appreciate that coming in. We're really, really excited for you as a first step to receive the resources that we're going to be sending out this week. And as soon as you have that, please sign up for an appointment with any of us so that we can get to know you, where you are, your background, what you're looking to do next, all of those things. We would love to have that opportunity to connect with you and support you in any way we can.
It looks like we have a question about being miserable in your current job and you're so busy in that current job you don't have time to apply for other jobs. Is it ever a good idea, especially in a bad economy, to quit a job without another one lined up?
I'm happy to take this one if we want. It's a tricky one. One of my best friends did exactly this. They were working for a large financial organization that I cannot name for legal reasons, and they were just being worked into the ground. And they made this decision. They made the decision to quit without having another job lined up. And it is, I won't sugarcoat it, it is a very difficult way to go. You can definitely quit, but it can take between 3 and 6 months, if not more, depending on how the job market is, to find that next job. So you have to ask yourself, am I willing to be without employment for that amount of time? And if you choose not to, there are other ways to do it. So similarly, I had a soul-sucking job as part of my FranklinCovey career about 4 years ago that I just could not handle. It was one of those that I was working until 11 o'clock at night. Most nights people would say, hey, get up early and try to do some job hunting. But there seriously just was not enough time in the day for me to do that. And the recommendation I'd make there is that you don't have to get it all done in a week. You don't have to get it all done in a day. That's not how job hunting generally works anyway, because jobs pop up organically at different times. But if you can even just set aside an hour or two to do something every week, then that'll at least start moving you forward. And those kind of things would be like, one, start assembling your resume if you haven't already. That usually is a pretty big time sucker, and you have to, format your resume for every job that comes in. So that can be a tricky one. But another great one that you can do that has been a great way that I found to pivot is set up, within your company, if you want to stay with your organization, but you just hate the job you're doing, or if you want to look into other organizations, find someone you can network with and see if you can set up a lunch with them, virtual lunch in our current circumstances, and just pick their brain. You don't have to have any other agenda there. I mean, you personally obviously want to see if you want to go into that company, but start that connection, start doing something that doesn't take up a ton of time, so that you can start finding your way. It'll do a couple of things for you. It'll start moving you forward so that you can find a job later on. And it'll also give you a little bit of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel, so that while things suck right now, it'll give you something to look forward to. Well, it's not also, taking up a ton of time because you don't have it.
I'd love to say something here, and it looks like Christopher would as well. So the other thing, that's fantastic advice, Kimberly. Totally agree with all of that. The other thing I would say is sometimes people mistakenly do their job search by applying blindly on job boards or to companies they don't know anyone, they've never talked to anybody there, and just send all this off, creating a lot of work for themselves. And usually success is very low on that. Companies tend to like risk-free or minimal risk hiring, which means through a referral or somebody said, yeah, this person would work well here. So start with your warmest network, your dad's best friend, or your neighbor that you know really well, or your best friend. Something that's warm on the networking side is easier, I think. And then you will start to feel that hope, as Kimberly said, that there are some options out there. Christopher?
Well, this will surprise you, Lisa, because I was actually going to introduce you and Trisha as two recently, our entire team, I have to say I'm very proud of the fact our entire team, we are certified as coaches, which is unique for colleges. But what's exceptionally unique is that beyond our main certification, Lisa and Trisha are also additionally certified in Clifton Strengths. And some of you may have taken this, some of you may have not. There's a lot of assessments out there, but the question prompts for me, again, the catch-all tonight is sign up for an appointment with a coach. For the person who is really miserable in their job, I think I'd want to unpack that. Have they exhausted all their options internally? But the thing that came to mind for me is that often, if that's the situation, it could be a misfit in terms of what you're good at, you're not even being tapped to do. Or where you could really shine is not valued at all within that culture. And one of the ways you can identify that for your next opportunity to make sure that you aren't miserable is through a service that we provide, which is what I'm just mentioning here related to Lisa and Trisha, which is a strengths assessment. And again, you could reach out to us, we could tell you more about that. But I'm always an advocate of start where you are. If you've really maximized the situation, could you move to another department? I mean, it could be who you're reporting to. Is there anything else you could possibly do there and move towards versus moving away from? And if there's not, and it's just a bad fit, then great, we can help you move forward. Kimberly's advice is excellent. Lisa's is as well. If you're already drained, don't spin your wheels applying for a bunch of jobs where you don't know anybody. It's time to be connecting with us, and we can help you connect further, expand your network and move forward.
Yeah, I would say in my personal experience, it's always easier to get a job when you have one. So I will say, just having been unemployed for a year during the last recession, it was impossible to get a job. And granted, the job market was bad, but once I had a job, I was way easier to find other jobs. Okay, a question about career pivoting. I'm in my 50s, looking to make a change pivot. I've made career pivots before and have a broad variety of experiences. My resume is too long because I'm trying to show off what I have to offer. Interviewers seem puzzled about why I've applied because it's a different type of role or a, quote, lower position. How do I get people to see my value and take me seriously?
I'd love to address that, or at least to start, and then I'll hand it over to anyone else who wants to pitch in on that one. So we spend a lot of time getting resumes to a more concise place. So I'm glad that you recognize that it's too long, because that is a critical element of a resume. And it's a lot around customization and priorities. So you poured so much work into all of those bullet points. It's so hard sometimes to get rid of some of them, but it has to come down to what does that particular hiring manager want to see, and really get rid of everything else. And a lot of that comes to knowing what the role involves, what are the recurring words in the job description, what have people said is required in that kind of role, what are the company mission and values. Is your resume customized and very concise around all of that and all of that alone? And then, I don't generally like an objective section on a resume, but if you don't have the opportunity to write a cover letter where you can explain why you're doing the pivot, then you may want to have a very brief objective at the top so that hiring managers are not puzzled.
Are there any other thoughts on that one?
I would just add to that piece there that for somebody, let's just say, just even 10 years or more into their career, even if they've made pivots or moved or gone in different directions, if you have that much experience under your belt, I would dive headfirst into my network and growing that, tapping that, expanding that. The further along, for most industries, the further along you are in your career, while now everything is changing, the less likely you are to get any response just applying blindly. There's got to be some kind of connection, some kind of introduction. It doesn't have to be somebody you know exceptionally well. So as much as you can do on the front end of having conversations, especially in the case if you've done a lot of things. And it looks like maybe one of the challenges here is the marketing piece. I'm looking at the thing about interviewers seem puzzled because it's a different type of role. So this is something we can help you with. I will just say right here, I work half the week as a recruiter, and it is not unusual to open up a resume and think, why did they apply? Did they apply to the wrong job? Like literally, that's the thought you have. You cannot see the connection between their background and the role. And that's a big problem, but it's something we can really help you with. And I'll just add to that another recruiter I know said to me once when I asked them, how much time will you spend determining whether or not somebody is a fit when you're looking at their resume or their portfolio? And their answer was, of course, a very short period of time. But the thing they said that struck me was, that's not my job. At the moment of screening them or looking at their resume, it's their job to show me why they're a fit. I'm not going to struggle to figure that out. And it sounds a little rough, but when you think about it from a standpoint of there are 300 or 500 other resumes in line behind us whenever we apply, anything you can do to save them time, feature what they want to hear that you can do right up at the front, you're already pulling yourself out of the stack, because the majority of people probably aren't doing that. So, and again, these are all things that we can help you with on an individual basis.
We have
Lisa,
about 3
yes.
minutes left as the
Yeah.
time. We have about 3 minutes left. So do we have one final question?
Yeah, it looks like we have one good final question. So, and this one's kind of more about fit and salary. So, having trouble finding salaries that look reasonable for my degree. Have a degree in chemistry. I have a job as a farm tech, and I'm wondering if working in my field of study at a lower salary is worth it because of the experience, or if I should hold out for a position with a higher salary. What are thoughts on that?
Well, I would just say that, if somebody, it's kind of tied in with the question about should you leave your job without a job. I think that we're career coaches, we're not financial advisors, but like the big question I would have is, how long can you go without work, to the first point? And, how big is your safety net? And then to the second one, how long are you willing to let good experience slip away at the cost of waiting for a higher salary? And it's just a values kind of thing. So, I think that if some people are really driven by the compensation piece, that's fantastic. But if it's really the experience, I think it's a values question to me. It's something you kind of have to decide for yourself.
And I think it's part of it's being realistic too about where you are in your career and what's available to you. I mean, I think, we've all been early in our careers at different times, and, whether it's a pivot or you're just coming out of college, I think you have to be realistic about what you have to offer a company, and you may not be able to, waiting for that salary. I mean, maybe you need to work at a place for a year or two. I mean, I don't know if Kimberly or Brandon want to speak to that, because you guys have worked at different companies and also moved up in the same company.
I have a comment, but Brandon hasn't said much to talk about.
Yeah, real quick on that. When I was working at Workday here in Salt Lake in sales and moved over to product, right? Like there's always a little bit of you're moving internally in the company. You're now moving from sales over to product. Pay structure is different, but also like, I knew the Bay Area was expensive, but like, and I was like, oh yeah, this is an okay salary. Then you get there, you're like, oh, okay, wow. But you know what? Like hindsight, 5 years ago, I started as a product manager making this, and now I'm a product manager making this. Like, I put in the time, I got the experience. Having the job allows you to prove yourself, and you get that experience. And if it's livable salary, then my recommendation would be go for it. Get that experience right now, and just prove yourself. And if anything else, like use it for leverage for the next one, is my thought.
Yeah, so just to finish out there, the only thing I'd add, because I think that's right along the line where I went to, but the only thing I'd add is that to the point that we've talked about before, a recruiter is going to, or someone who is negotiating salary with you, needs to be confident that the wage that they are going to be giving to you is worth what you're going to provide to them as well, right? So it's not necessarily like, hey, I put in the work, but it's I put in the right work that is going to do for the organization that I'm applying for or asking for a raise or whatever, that you're going to provide some kind of value. And that's the reason why you're going to receive that higher wage. So if you feel confident, if you have a resume that hits all the right buttons that says that you should have that higher salary, then I'd say negotiate for the higher salary, because we also tend to be a little bit shy about negotiating for what we're worth. But make sure you can back it up with value as to why you deserve that, because they're not going to consider giving you a higher salary if you don't have, the experience necessary or those points on your resume to show that it's worth their while.
I would just add one thing from the recruiter's point of view. I think increasingly, and with the volume of candidates that are going to be out in the job market, and we can help you with this as well, I would be prepared from the very first phone call you receive to speak to what your salary expectation is. And in that first phone call, this is not a salary negotiation. They're taking a pulse. They just want to know where you are, and they really just want to know where you are. And wherever you are is great. Wherever you are is great. And I would just add that you're flexible. Right now, I'm here's what I'm looking at. I'm flexible, excited to be talking to you. I'd love to continue the conversation. And make it really easy for them. It's not a long discussion, but be prepared. And if you need help preparing for that conversation or help preparing for where you are at, typically you give them a range, and we can work with you on how to find out what would be an appropriate range for you. But you don't want to miss that opportunity in the first phone call by not being prepared.
Great. Well, I think that takes care of all of our questions. I just want to thank everybody for their time tonight. And there will be, as you leave, you will get prompted for a survey. Please fill out that survey. It'll really help us as we plan more of these events and work on, our virtual event mojo. So please take care of that. Are there any other final thoughts from anyone else?
I would just say I really appreciate Kimberly and Brandon, you joining us this evening. It's really valuable for us to hear your stories, and I hope for the others who participated. And just a reminder too that you'll receive some follow-up information after participating tonight, and we just look forward to having the opportunity to work with you and support you however we can.
So thank you all. If you missed any part of this tonight, we will be posting it online. And then we will also be sending out the follow-up email with the stuff from the Career Center. All those resources will be available. There is things on, check the Alumni Facebook page, check the LinkedIn group, just connect with us. We're here. We want to help you. Our alumni want to help you. And the staff wants to help you as well. And it looks like Kimberly and Brandon are putting their LinkedIn profiles there in the comments. If people want to link to those, that's great. And obviously you can find any of the rest of us on LinkedIn as well. So thank you all. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.